technology and the internet, there's a lot to love about them. But probably the thing I love most is how they've basically democratized everything. So if you think about audiences and information, talent, access to money, knowledge, all of these things that up until even 10 or 15 years ago were really limited to a couple of very small pockets of society are now freely available to basically anybody with an internet connection. And what it's done is it's created this environment where really the best ideas, the best concepts, the best campaigns actually can get heard, and if they actually are the best, then they can win. And what we've got today is 3 really incredible presentations on that topic, really looking at it through different lenses. The funny thing about this democratization of info is that as consumers, all of a sudden we have way more information about the brands and the organizations that we decide to spend our time and our money with than ever before. But the opposite's also true, and these guys have way more info on us than we oftentimes could ever have imagined. And what that means is we've kind of got this whole new landscape that we need to deal with. We've got new questions we need to answer, new things to work out if we're actually comfortable with. And a lot of the time we don't actually know if something's crossed the line until it has crossed the line and we feel a little bit weird about it. So dealing with that topic head on this morning, I'd like to welcome our first speaker, Brendan Kearns, to the stage.
Now, each and every person in this room is being stalked, tracked, and profiled, and by hundreds of businesses. Take Facebook, for example. Around 13 million of us in Australia visit the site at least once a month. But if you're like me, and I'll probably see 1 or 2 during the presentation, you can't help but take a sneaky peek. Now, Facebook are constantly making changes to their platform. Most of them are part and parcel of being a big publicly listed company, but some of them have started to get interesting. One of the more creepy ones is for the ability to Facebook to hear what TV show you're watching or what song you're listening to through the built-in microphone in your phone. It's a bit creepy, as if stalking us in real life, it's stalking us online isn't enough, they're stalking us in real life as well. Now, Facebook have also extended their ad network to include properties outside of Facebook, all over the web. So what this means is they can service highly targeted, personalised ads based on who we are, who we're friends with, the kind of things we like, and even the conversations we're having. They're also getting even smarter. They've partnered up with this company called Datalogix. What Datalogix has is real-world purchasing behaviour. It comes from loyalty cards, store cards, things like that. What Facebook are doing is mashing up their online data about us with real-world purchasing behaviour. For example, I could see how often Dan had bought John West tuna in the past 12 months and match that up with the kind of ads or content he's been exposed to over the same period. So if I was a brand, I could run an ad to every single person in this room and then see exactly how many of you, and down to the individual level, how many of you were influenced enough to change your real-world buying habits. But that's just Facebook. That's just an easy one to touch on. And I'll do a quick survey. I'll ask you to put your hands up if you use any kind of Google product, search, maps, anything. So the majority of us do. Keep your hands up. Who uses Yahoo products? Bing? Okay, thought so. Now, no one forces us to use Google. No one's putting a gun to our heads. And if you don't want to, you can just start typing random things into your browser and see where it takes you. Now, like Facebook, Google also knows a hell of a lot about us. They know what we search based on what we type into their magical search box. They know what sites we visit, what products we buy, what products we might be interested in. Knows what emails we get, and of those, which ones we open and interact with. Google's also got a browser called Chrome. Now, Chrome encourages us to sign in on all of our devices, our computer at work, laptop or iPad at home, and even the phone that I've got on me 24 hours a day. Now, what this means is they can paint a fuller picture of our habits, not just small chunks. Google would be able to tell if Someone searches for a credit card using their phone on a Monday and applies for that same credit card using their iPad on a Wednesday, if it's the same person, and if it was me. Google have bought about 100 companies since the start of 2010. Most of them are smaller ad networks or platforms that help them paint, like I said before, a fuller picture of each and every one of us. They can tell what we're buying online, what we're searching for, what we're interested in. So if I was interested in online dating or vegan recipes, they might start recommending things like dating vegans. But they bought some weird ones as well, some more obscure ones. Take Nest, for example. Now, Nest make these smart home thermostats and smoke alarms. Now, these things get smarter over time. Nest knows how you like your apartment to feel in terms of temperature when you wake up in the morning. It knows when you leave your home. It knows when you come back. And what they can do with these habits in the real world is mash that up with our already detailed online profiles. So with some of those things in mind, it's no surprise we've all gone a little bit antsy about this whole privacy thing. And I don't know, I think some people are taking a little bit too far when they start being concerned about their privacy. That's a real product, by the way, you can buy that. I think the first thing to remember is privacy isn't an absolute concept. It's relative, it's gradient, it's every shade of grey. Now, if we were lucky enough to live 100 years ago and be in the upper classes of society, we'd have no problem with helpers watching us eat and sleep and shit. In fact, we probably would have demanded it. And somehow, in that relatively short period of time between then and now, we've got so uptight about our perceived privacy that I wouldn't even be able to tell if my wife had paid for our health insurance or not. So with every second conversation or call center script or website having some sort of reference to privacy in it, I'm not surprised people have got a little bit paranoid. The first thing to remember is that we're at the wrong starting point. We think that the internet is free. We think we can go about searching and clicking, buying products, using products, having conversation, watching videos for no cost other than the time it takes, other than the time we spend doing it. But here's the reality check. If you're using a service and you're not paying for it, you're the product. And if you're the product, you're being sold to someone, probably an advertiser who is the real customer. And I'll say it again. If you're using a service and you're not paying for it, you're not the customer, you're the product. And if you're the product, you're being sold to someone, and that someone is the real customer. So we continue to expect the web to be increasingly awesome and always free. The conversation we need to have isn't about ads or no ads. It needs to be about what ads we see. I'm pretty happy as a 28-year-old guy to never see another ad about tampons, baby clothing, or retirement homes. And I'm pretty sure if you managed those budgets as well, you wouldn't want me seeing them. You see, the web is infinitely better when it knows who I am. My internet shouldn't be your internet, and your internet shouldn't be mine. Take Facebook, for example. Every one of us here goes to Facebook at least once a month. Same website, facebook.com. And yet we all have a completely different experience when we get there, based on our unique profile, location, the time of day, and what's happening in our world at that precise moment. And it's really weird. I mean, how strange is it when you look at someone else's profile? You look at Facebook when someone else is logged in. So the way I see it, the more information I give up about myself as a user, the better the internet should be for me. And as someone who also works on things for brands, if someone's willing to give up more and more precious data about themselves, I've got an obligation to make that whole experience a little bit more meaningful. Now, back at the agency, we've got a simple concept that we follow when we start designing experience. It's pretty straightforward, but it works like this, and it's called the Concierge Curve. On the vertical axis, you've got utility, or what you get as a user. On the horizontal axis, you've got effort, or what you give up, your information, your actions, whatever. And when we plot a line between the two, we start to demonstrate a perfect balance. Now what the curve reminds us is, or this line, is that concierges, which is why we called it that, they do this kind of thing for a living. If you think about staying at a 5-star hotel, one of the best concierges in the world, if you walked up to them and told them nothing about who you are, why you're visiting, the things you're interested in, the shows you like, the food, whatever, you can't really expect them to add much to your stay. But as soon as you start opening up, telling them who you are, what you're there for, and what you're interested in, then they can start adding to your experience and meet you every step of the way. So on the line is a great place to be. Everybody's getting a fair deal. The unfortunate reality is that in 2014 we're still spending way too much time here, creating horrible experiences, making people jump through invasive forms and giving up more than they're getting back. I mean, one that really bugs me is how many times is a brand going to ask me for my postal mailing address to sign up to a shitty email newsletter that they're never going to send anyway? Or more recently, why do airlines email me the morning they know that I'm already flying with them? They're not adding any value. But that's just below the line. But above the line, that we spoke about before, is where things get really, really interesting. It's where companies, almost like magic, start, I guess, delivering experiences far more possible than what we ever thought we imagined. They over-deliver compared to the information we give them. Before I kind of go on, I need to ask a question. Will anyone actually admit to buying a product without any prior knowledge just because they've seen an ad on the internet for it? What about Amazon? Amazon was the first place I found myself asking for more ads. They call them recommended items, but they're ads. Now quickly you can kind of tell that this would be my Amazon. Now Amazon's not only got amazing memory, they keep track of everything I've ever bought, added to a wish list or looked at, but they've got the benefit of aggregating my information with millions and millions of other people like me. Back in the mid-90s, Amazon were pretty standard. They were one of hundreds of e-commerce startups. But if you fast forward 20 years and 200 million customers later, they're the largest online retailer in the world. Their system sells $140,000 worth of product every minute. And the most interesting one for me is in the lead up to Christmas last year, they were selling 400 items a second. And 35% of that is attributed to the recommended items that they put in front of their customers. Another example of a company really, really above that line that we spoke about before is Netflix. Now they started out in 1997 as a pretty basic service. People paid a subscription fee to be posted out videos and DVDs, watch them, and then send them back. Now realizing the potential of digital subscriptions and streaming, they started building what we see today. Now when they did start out, they acted like Blockbuster or Video Easy. They asked people what they wanted to see. If you like comedies, it's over there, action behind you. And then they try and serve up content or videos and DVDs accordingly. The thing was they found 3 fundamental issues with this. The first one is that the questions they were asking were too broad to be effective. There's thousands and thousands of different types of comedy. Jim Carrey is different than Chris Rock, and The Simpsons are different than Family Guy. And just because you like one doesn't necessarily mean you like the other. The second flaw is we all lie, each and every one of us. If I just want to get in my pajamas and watch Hugh Grant films over and over again, I can't believe I just admitted that. I'm still going to give you aspirational answers when you ask me questions. I'm going to say, no, I don't do that. I watch art house movies and drama and foreign films. The third one is it gets in the way. You're removing people from the experience they're paying for to answer questions about it. So they solved it in a pretty heavy way. Netflix come up with 76,897 attributes or micro-genres, and then catalogued the tens and tens of thousands of pieces of content they have available into one of these, or many of them. They've even got random ones like, is it a period piece about royalty based in the 17th century versus a satanic film from Slovenia in the 80s? It goes down to that granular level. Now, as far as we come with technology and artificial intelligence, Netflix still had to pay people to sit down manually and meticulously and catalogue each and every one of these pieces of content. Now, as well as using all this data to help serve up other people's content, they use it to predict the success of their own. When they were looking at their data, they realized that stalking, tracking, and profiling their users almost guaranteed the success of House of Cards because they knew what their users were watching. When they knew what their users were watching, they knew where the demand was. They didn't make assumptions, and this is a much more proven method of guaranteeing success than writing a pilot, testing it against an audience, and then seeing how it performs on TV. It kind of makes me wonder what supermarkets could do with all the information we give them when we buy products, go through the checkout, if they matched it with their private label brands and home brands. Now, someone else so far above that line is a little internet company called Google. So their mail, their maps, and everything else we've seen them is world class. But what if I combine my behavior across all of their services together and then gave them access to my calendar or my contacts, as well as my location? Well, this is when we start talking about Google now. Because I've given them access to my location and my calendar, I get little reminders saying when I need to leave one place for the next. And it's not just an arbitrary 15 minutes built into my calendar. Google's looking at where I am, where I need to be, as well as current traffic levels, roadworks, congestion points, and devising the optimum time and route that's going to take me to get there. Another example is if I go to Google a restaurant, the next place my phone will take me is my dialer with the restaurant's phone number pre-filled, and then onto the maps on how to get to the restaurant I just booked one at. It's data in and it's value out. It's way above that line, and it's pretty awesome. So the question you might be asking is, what if we're not Google or Netflix or Amazon? You don't have a huge digital team or the budget to pay for one. The question is, what can you do? The good news is, you're probably already collecting really valuable information about your users. You just haven't used it to its best potential. There's some really easy ways or really easy questions you can ask yourself to start bringing what you do in line with the curve and hopefully above it. The first question is, what data do you already have? What information do you have about your users that you're not using properly? The second question is, what did your users expect when they gave it to you? Something as simple as asking for a name means that they probably expected you to use their name. And that's just a very, very basic example. The third and final one, which the slide's not working, is how can you take the information you have as well as all the other information in your business, stuff that no one else knows. You've got product information, you've got sales data, you've got patterns of behavior across all of your products. How can you mash all of that up and present your user back with a product that they never would have expected? So if we are going to stalk, track, and profile people, we may as well build something awesome with it. Thanks.
Thank you, Brendan. Stalking, tracking, and profiling. Best thing ever, hey? What we're going to do, we'll take a couple of questions from Brendan before we move on to the next presentation. So we get a hand up if anyone's got anything they'd like to ask.
I won't watch you later, it's fine.
We've got one up the back, or two up the back. So question was, all well and good when we're doing good things with it, but surely there are instances where companies having all this information on us is sort of going too far.
I think the best one was Target. Like a supermarket, Target keep track of everything that people buy and they recognise patterns. They accidentally told the father of a teenage daughter that he was about to be a granddad. They recognised certain products bought together symbolised that someone is pregnant and in a certain stage of pregnancy. So they sent vouchers to the daughter saying, congratulations on being pregnant, here's a discount for whatever. And he went down and obviously tore strips through the poor guy working at Target, and the guy at Target got a phone call the next day saying, I'm very sorry, but there's something happening under my roof I wasn't aware of. So that's when you take it too far. They took it too far because they didn't ask for permission. The user hadn't really prompted that response.
All right, that's a little bit creepy. Not the way you'd imagine finding out. Another one up the back. Cool. So question was, is it potentially dangerous for us if Google were hacked? Would we all be susceptible to identity theft and other such catastrophes?
The easiest way for me to steal your identity is to pinch your wallet when you walk out. So there's the question of legality, and then it's, you know, how much you actually want back in terms of giving up your information. If I give stuff to Google, I get something back 10 times better than if I didn't give them information. So I guess it's you being comfortable with how much data is out there about you, and who controls it, and where it's spread all over the world.
Good slippery answer. Probably got time for one more. Otherwise, I'm going to ask one that I know everybody's thinking. You made reference to being a 28-year-old single guy and the ads that you do and don't see. You also made reference to your wife paying car insurance. And I've noticed a few single ladies in the audience today who are probably wondering what the truth is.
The wife thing was the only way I could articulate.
Okay. So 28 and single.
Yes.
All right.
Thanks, Dan.
And very, very possibly a stalker.
Perfect catch.
Thank you, Brendan.
Thanks, guys.